Okay, so the next thing we're going to talk about today is a thing called text animators. And text animators is a kind of a weird way of animating inside of After Effects, particularly with text, or obviously with text. So we're going to make a composition, HG 108024. We'll make this 15 seconds long. Sure. Great. And we'll start here. So I'm just going to make some text, and I'm going to put some text on the screen. And that text is going to say, for example, good times. And I'm just going to have that good times. I'm going to go back to the selection tool and have good times up here. Maybe I'll make this a little bit bigger just so we can see it a little bit bigger. 200, I'll make the size. And yeah, we'll just put it here somewhere in the center of the screen. And yeah, put it basically somewhere about there. Cool. And so I have that position right about there. Excellent, in the center of the screen. Well, if you open the text and you expose the text here, you'll see the text controls here that you have. And then over here, you'll see a control that says animate. And what does animate do? It's really confusing and bizarre. And so when you go to animate, there's a little pull down menu, and the animate pull down menu offers things like anchor point, position, scale, rotation, opacity. And you're like, but I have these things. They're kind of right here. Why do I have them here as well? Well, let me show you what they do. So when you apply them, you can apply a text animator. And what it does is it creates an animator that says animator number 1 here. And it calls this animator number 1. And we'll just close the transform tools. And it says animator number 1, and then it says range selector and says position. And so we are animating position right now. Now, the position values right now are at 0 by 0, but we know the actual position of these values are where the position is in position. So right now it's at 948 by 560. That's basically the position of where this is. And so, but the position values right now means that this animator has done nothing to change this. So we haven't changed this at all. Now, if I grab these and put this at 100, for example, it's going to move this over 100. It says that's weird because we already have a value that will do that. I can just go to position values and change it from 948 to 1048 and it would move it over. So why do I have, I don't have both of those? Undo, undo. But I can move this left and right, and I can move this up and down, and I can move these inside of here. And so I can adjust these text animators. I'm going to reset this back to 0 and have this here. Well, the trick about the text animator, so right now we're animating position. And we can animate position up screen. So we're going to go negative on the y-axis here and go up to the top of the screen here. So now we're here at the top of the screen at say minus 350. So now we are at position 560 minus 350. That's what, 210 maybe? Yeah, 210, something like that. You don't need to do the math, but it's just there in case you wanted to have it as a value. So that's the trick. But the real power of the animator, of the text animator over here, is the ability to adjust what's called the range selector. And the range selector is this control here. And the range selector right now goes from 0 to 100%. And if you click on the animator, you'll notice that normally when we click on the text, you get the little boxes around the text, the little colored boxes around the text. We can change this to maybe yellow or something. You can see the little yellow boxes around there. But when you click on the animator, you'll see little lines that show up. So here's the text, here's little lines that show up, and now you have little lines that become available to you, and these little lines here. And you can actually grab these lines directly and grab them. But we're going to do this here. So we're going to change this not from 0 to 100. We're going to change this back to 0 to 0. And we're going to go to start to end point, and we're going to change this from 0 to 50%, which is 50% of this. So it's only covering the word good. Now, when I move the position, I'm only moving the position of good up screen. So now good goes up screen minus 350. 350. And so now good is up screen like so. So now good is up here, times is down here. So I can kind of separate this text out as something else. Now, if I take this back, and I'll just reset this again, if I made this say 40 to 50, or maybe let's say 20 to 30. Now you notice that the lines here are only around the O, which means I'm only going to move the O up screen. So I can animate this individually, just this O. And now if I wanted to animate just the S on the end, I could say 90 to 100, which would put it around the S. So I have this control here to kind of isolate this, and I can move this left, and I can move this down, and I can move this someplace else, and have this by itself be animated. So I can kind of siphon off text and have the controls like so. And that's kind of cool. I can just animate this to have the good time change to good times by animating this on, and it would come on like there, and do that as an idea. So I can select what I want to animate, and then only animate a portion of text, which is, I guess, good enough for us. You know, you could just have be the O's in good. So that would be, this is 0 to, these are 10 characters. I made this so it's 1, 2, 3, 4, space, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So if you did it from, I guess, 10 to 30, it would just be the O's. And so just the O's could animate good times. You know, you could have this come in here like so. And that'd be kind of cool. But here's the real power. Here's the real trick of the text animator. So we're going to change this text animator here from 0 to 100, which means everything is being animated. So the beginning of this, from the front to the end, all the letters that fall in between 0 and 100% are available there. So we're going to take this and we're going to move this up screen. And we're going to move this up screen up to here. So imagine if all these are up screen and these are up screen like some kind of a trick here. There's some kind of a trick here where these are floating above screen. Now, originally, where were they originally? Originally, they were right here. So originally, before they were negative 550 on screen, they were at 0 and they were right here. So this is their home base. This is where they belong. And I'm actually going to do this. I'm going to make a solid. We're going to command Y. We'll make a 1920 by 20 solid. We'll make this green. And we're just going to put this green solid right here, right in the ground. We'll put this underneath the layer here. And so this is where they're resting. This is where they live normally. And we could set this as being, hey, they live normally right here on the ground here. Well, what if they got some kind of magic power? And what if they got some magic power that would put them up screen and put them way up screen, way up here? And so now they're floating up here. Now, normally, by default, they're here on the ground. They live on the ground. They're supposed to be on the ground here. They live here naturally on the ground by default. But they are 1,000 pixels up screen. So they are 1,000 pixels out of the range of the screen. They are way up screen up here. So that's cool. And that'd be fine. Now, what we're going to do here is we're going to say, good, normally they're supposed to be up screen, but they're not there. Or normally they're supposed to be down here, but they're up screen, off screen. But now the range selector can be animated. So if I change this from 10 to 100, it's only going to be every letter except for G. If I change this from 20 to 100, it's every letter except from G to O. If I change this from 50 to 100, it's all of that except for good. But if I animate this start position to go from 0 over to here, across here, and go to like so, I can animate this to fall down. So this would animate here. So it starts at 0 to 100, which means everything is off screen, and then it goes from 100 to 100 over 3 seconds, and all these fall back to where they originally belonged, all back to where they were by default. And so I can animate this to cascade in kind of from here as each one of these leave their magical power of being floating off screen. So imagine this is the ground and these were these magical powers. They were all infected by this magical power that put them off screen. And then all of a sudden the power starts to wear off. From the beginning, it all cascades on the screen, which means we can make some really cool looking animations here. We can make some animations that kind of float these on screen like so. And if we want to just move a little faster, we can move these closer together. And now this would just, boom, come in like there. So that's kind of a cool idea. That's kind of a thing. And now if we wanted to later on, we said, oh, we want them to all go by the last letter. So we're going to animate a keyframe here. We'll add a keyframe here, and then we'll add another keyframe here. And so now they'll all go back off screen as they come back into the range. And so they come back into the range, and now it's going to fly off screen and then fly back on screen. So they're going to roll off screen and roll back on screen. So we have a simple little animation that does this. It goes back home as it leaves the range and as it comes back into the range. So let's try a different example. Let's try a different example as an idea. Let's say, for example, we'll get rid of the deep green solid for now. Let's say, for example, we type in a text that says werewolf. And think about what a werewolf is. If you've ever seen a horror movie before and you saw a werewolf, we can type in werewolf and we'll have a werewolf on the screen here. And so this is this scary werewolf. Okay, so werewolf by default, like by default, a werewolf is just a person who turns into a wolf, right? Becomes a wolf. We'll make this text a little bit bigger, 250. There we go. We'll spread this out. We'll spread the tracking a little bit more so it's a little bit wider. And so a werewolf becomes a werewolf. So what happens when it becomes a werewolf? Well, let's say, for example, when it becomes a werewolf, it changes color. So we'll go to fill color, and we'll change this to RGB, and we'll choose a color to make this here. And so we'll change this color to, I don't know, like a brown or something. Dark, evilly brown there. There we go. Dark brown. Excellent. So it becomes brown. What else becomes when it becomes a werewolf? Well, let's say we add in, and there's a control here to say add in. So we're adding in a property of scale because it becomes bigger. When it turns into a werewolf, when the guy turns into a werewolf, he gets bigger. So it gets much bigger. Great. What else happens when he gets a werewolf? Well, maybe he gets, I don't know, he skews a little bit. So we'll add in a skew. And so now this is skewed a little bit. So there, we'll maybe loosen up the kerning a little bit more so we can really see this. So like that. And so cool, we'll put this werewolf right here. And so it becomes a werewolf. And then maybe he gets blurry. We'll add a blur in there. So right now, all these modifiers are what turn him into a werewolf. So a werewolf is all these things. He's blurry, he's scaled up, he's skewed, he's changes color. Well, normally he's a normal human being. And when he's a normal human being is when the range selector is not over him. So think of the range selector here like the full moon. We can actually call this full moon. So the full moon is going to be over them. That's when, if you believe in your werewolf mythology, you can say that when the full moon comes overhead, that's when he has all the werewolf attributes. Well, the werewolf attributes are kind of always in your werewolf, right? I mean, he has, the claws and the beady eyes and the fur and the whatever it may be, the sharp teeth, etc., the tail. I don't know. Werewolves have tails? I don't know. Anyway, but that's going to be when they turn into the werewolf, but it's always there in them. It only just comes out of them when the full moon comes overhead. So right now we're saying, hey, is the full moon overhead? Yes, the full moon is covering the werewolf. Well, when the full moon goes away, it becomes back to a person. So no full moon. 0 to 0 means the full moon is over here somewhere. Now here, when this comes up, full moon comes up, turns into a werewolf. And all these modifiers occur. And then the full moon goes away, and it comes back to normal. So as the full moon comes over, we can actually control this. And we can actually control this with this other control here called offset. I love this control called offset, because now it says, hey, this range, 0 to 100% is the full moon. But watch these lines. As I offset this, I can move this over, and then move this back this way. So it kind of takes the line and moves the line over. So we can just animate this as like, hey, he's a normal human being. And then ultimately, we roll this back to 0 and it becomes the werewolf. We'll just move this to 0, cool. And then here, we just say, copy this keyframe, Command-C, Command-V, and then he returns back to being a human. So during this section right here, like from here to here, this is the section when the full moon exists, because it's inside of here, the full moon is covering all of these little werewolves, all these little werewolf characters, all these little werewolf letters. So then it's full moon, and then the full moon goes away, and then it drifts off, and it disappears. And that's a way of doing a text animator. Now, let's give another example. Let's try something different. Let's say, for example, we'll take this, we'll delete this, and we'll do something simple. We'll do something cool. We'll say, I don't know, NASCAR. Cool. I'll take this text, and we're going to take this NASCAR here, and I'm going to go into this NASCAR here. We'll take the tracking a little bit smaller, maybe 100. Cool. We'll make this a little bit bigger, maybe 300. And so we'll take this text here, like so. And here with this text, we're going to go and we're going to say position. So we're going to go to text animators, text animate text, and say position. We're going to put this off screen. So we're going to put this off screen like there. And it's going to roll off screen like so. And now it's going to roll. We're going to just come up with a number minus 1500 off screen. So it's right there at the edge of the screen. But now the range selector is going to say that at a certain point here, the end point is going to go away. So the end point is going to go away, which means by the last letter, it's going to come in NASCAR, come in like there. And then we're going to do like a doom, 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 doom there. But maybe we want to add we're going to add in a skew to this. And by adding the skew in, we're going to say, let's take this and skew this way so that it rolls in like there. So now it has a little bit of skew. And maybe we'll add in a blur so that it's a little bit blurry as it skews in. So now it comes in and goes kind of, cars racing in. Maybe we'll skew it a little bit more skewed just so we really see that. Oh, yeah, I like that. Cool. And so we have this kind of skew action going in there like so. And we could even go in here and say, let's go to this text animator here and say speed graph and just say maybe we play with the speed here and have this be kind of wacky or something. Or maybe we just do something simple. We'll do a simple F9 for little easy ease, and we can look at some easies there. We could actually crank this up and make this more drastic. So now it has more of a playful, nice little playfulness there. So, just something we could do. But that's, there's more opportunities there to kind of control. We're not controlling what's being animated. What's being animated is, well, we are controlling what's being animated. But what I mean to say is we're not controlling necessarily the property. The property is kind of in there. It's there all the time. We're just activating the property text by controlling, by animating the range selector. So it's just a thing we can do to kind of control cascading animation. We'll do another trick here. We'll do another one just for one more. So we'll play this game here. We're gonna go here and we're gonna go to text, and we're gonna say we're gonna type in we're gonna do New York City. New York City. Cool. And we are going to make this a little bit smaller, so it fits on the screen. And 200. All right, let me click on it first. And we're gonna type in 200. Great. And we're taking New York City. Okay, so we're going to play a tricky game. We're going to do like the decoder. And the decoder is a fun one. It's kind of like if you ever saw an action movie, a Michael Bay movie, you see the decoder here. We'll put New York City behind in the background here. We'll put a shot here of New York City in the background. Oops, sorry. Come on, grab it. And New York City there. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to have New York City here, and it's going to say New York City on the screen. Great, so that's going to be our text there. But what we're going to do is we're going to animate a control here. And the animation control that we're going to do is something called character offset. So let me tell you what character offset does. Character offset by default is set to 0, which means all these letters are referring to the appropriate letter of what they're supposed to be. They're all N is N, E is E, W is W. Well, if I do character offset of 1, it goes to the next available letter. So N becomes MMO, E becomes EF, W becomes WX. And so when I type in 1, NEW becomes OFX. It goes to the next letter. So just alphabetically, in terms of characters, it goes to the next letter. If I type in 2, it's going to go from OFX to PGY. Yeah, PGY. And if I go to character offset of 3, it goes from QHZ. Look at that, I know my alphabet, amazing. So as I crank these letters, it'll just cycle through all these letters. And eventually, if it goes through all, I guess, 26 letters, it'll eventually come back and say NEW. But if I do this really fast, you can't even tell that it's somewhere in there, it says New York City. It's just cycling through letters back and forth. Well, in this case, we're gonna animate this. We're gonna have this be an animation control that we're gonna do. We're gonna start at we'll start at some random letter here, like number here, 3. And we're gonna animate this over, say, 4 seconds to go to, 100. And so now it's just cycling through 100 different characters there. It's just, maybe if you look really closely, you'll eventually see it says New York City, but I can't tell that here. But what we're going to do is we're going to decode this. So we're going to have this. So right now, imagine that all these numbers are spinning and spinning and spinning. And at some point, we want to stop these numbers. Well, when we stop these numbers, we just, what's inside the range, and that's the trick, the mentality. It's a weird thing to wrap your brain around. What's inside the range is the thing that's changing. So that's the part that's changing. So this is just kind of cycling. It's like a bunch of people spinning their arms in the air, basically. Imagine like a group of people, and there's a group of people, a crowd of people, and they're all pumping their arms in the air at a concert, and all of a sudden, the sound goes off for that one person, and that sound goes off that one person, and that one person loses it and comes back to the regular letter. And so what we can do is we can animate this start position and do like this. So we can do at like 1 second here to 3 seconds, we're going to decode this. So it's going to go decode, and all these letters are going to return back. They're going to stop spinning, and they're going to return back to their normal letters and decode there. So the animation is going to look like this. It's going to be spin, decode. And you've seen this in action movies before. You've seen this idea where we have these spinning letters that just decode, and it says New York City there. So, that's a simple animation. Maybe we could even add a modifier in here just to really illustrate this of changing the color. We'll change the color to red. So everything in here is red, but then as it decodes, it comes back to normal. So we do like there's a cool sound effect, like doing a cool sound effect that makes this kind of do its thing. And now it decodes as it leaves the range. So in here, red is a modifier, and this spinning character offset is a modifier. The modifier is really not the cool part of the animation. The cool part of the animation is just undoing the range selector, and undoing the range selector returns this back to its normal state. And that's the trick you want to learn. So that's your little decoder idea there. And maybe we can even go further. We can say we'll take this text, we'll add a mask around it. I like this trick. We add a mask around it just to fully kind of embrace the effect. We'll add a mask around it, and then we'll animate this mask. So we'll go to this mask, we'll hit M for mask path, and what I want to do is I want to, as this decodes, so once this is fully decoded, a little bit before it fully decodes, we want to go here and say, let's go mask path, let's hit U to show my text animators, but we're going to go back to right before it starts to decode. We're going to start to expose it. So I'm going to hit the V key. We're going to click on this endpoint right here and shift click this other endpoint, and we're going to drag these over. Hold down shift so it drags just in one direction. And then so here. So what's going to happen is this going to open up, and then it's going to start to decode as it goes. And if we time this out right, usually I time it like right a second before it decodes as it kind of arrives. I love that trick. We'll put a little bit of feather on this. F for feather, 5 pixel feather. And then so here, what it's going to do is going to go like this, decode. Yeah, that's even cooler. I don't know why. I don't know why, because it looks like it's revealing as it decodes. Like the computer is so fast that it reveals as it decodes. And we have that effect. And so we can do that kind of, and you've seen this in action movies before, right? This is the typical action movie or action video game that, you know, military decoder, there's some cool thing going on. You know, maybe they find some good, you know, militaristic font or some kind of, you know, old style, you know, dot matrix font or something, you know. You have this kind of decoder thing going on. And it's just, that's how they do it. That's the trick. And so there's a whole bunch of cool things you can do with these controls. So let me show you a couple more things inside of here, and then we'll talk about some other ideas that I want to get into. So we're going to delete New York City. And just as a comparable example, we're going to type in a number here. I have a bottle of iced tea, and the UPC code on my bottle of iced tea is 12000 space 17321. That's the UPC code for my iced tea that I'm drinking right now. Which is not important, but what this also is the launch codes for the secret missiles that are going to launch off into space, and whatever, the nuclear codes. And so we're going to have the computer system solve the nuclear codes. And so we're going to go to animate, again, character offset. We're going to go here and we're going to say, let's just do the same thing. We're going to go here, and it's going to be kind of a similar example. We're going to say, let's have this be cycling through numbers, trying to figure out what the code is, right? So this is going to go from here. We'll have this start it at 2 there, just so it's off. So all the numbers are off. So all the numbers are advanced by 1200, whatever was now 34222. And so it's advanced by the numbers to a different set of numbers. Great. So this is moving here, and it's just cycling through all these numbers. You can't really tell what's going on, but there's some cyclage going on there. I might actually change this here. We might actually change this number. Let's turn off the text animator. I'm going to change this number to something else, 12, because I want it to be more random. 470. There, cool. And we'll turn this animator back on. So now this is cycling through a bunch of different numbers that have no rhyme or reason. They're just cycling through all these numbers. Doesn't know what it's doing. Great. And now it's going to solve. So we're going to go to range selector, and we're going to range selector, and we're going to go to start position, and it's going to start to solve. And then as it starts to solve, it'll figure out the numbers. So it's going to solve from start position and solve all the numbers, and that's the appropriate number. So once it figures out the number, it kind of locks in that number and it figures out the code. So this is this deciphering the code. And again, we can change color. We can go to property. Maybe RGB, we'll change this to, say, a shade of maybe yellow. Maybe let's try yellow. Try bright yellow. And we'll make this, actually, we'll add in a little bit of scale and make it a little bit smaller. So these are a little bit smaller. So as it solves, you know, it prompts the letters and into codes. And now there's some other options in here, just to show you, there's some other controls you have in here. Under the advanced controls, you'll see that it says at the bottom of this, I found this one day, at the bottom of this, it says randomize order. And we can choose on randomize order, and now it doesn't go left to right from start to end, it just randomly chooses what letter it solves. Oh, cool. So we can do a little decoder there and have this decode, like so. You also see some other controls you see in there under the advanced controls. It says units based on percentage. You can actually do a units based on index, and now it doesn't go from 0 to 100, it goes from 0 to 11, which is these 10 characters, the space, and the 5 character space, 5 characters, which would be 11 characters. So it goes from 0 to 11 in this case, which is sometimes easier to, if you're working with actual units, to try to do the math. I did good times before, which was perfectly 10, so I could divide it by 10%, which was great. But if you had some kind of weird, happy birthday, I don't know how many letters that is, but we could look and it would tell me how many characters it is. So you can do it based on index, not based on percentage. One of the weird ideas here, and I want to show you this as a concept, is if I do something here, let's try one more thing. We'll do one more thing here. And this is something you got to play with a little bit too. Some cool things you can do with text animators, but we'll try it. We'll type in happy birthday. We'll type in happy birthday. And cool, this is saying happy birthday. Excellent. And we can actually look right now. We'll see how many letters. Some of you already counted how many letters in happy birthday. I mean, good for you. But here we'll go to text animators. We'll animate position. And so actually we'll animate position. You know what? We'll animate position. I'm going to delete this animator. We're going to delete this animator. We're going to animate opacity. And we're going to animate, and we're going to add in a blur. So it's going to be an opacity and a blur. Okay, so if I change this here in the range selector advanced controls, and I do it not based on percentage, I do it based on index, there is 14 letters, or 14 characters, including the space. We can do characters without spaces, and it's only 13 letters, but we're going to do characters there. And so we have this based on there. So we're going to do it based on index. Okay, so here's the weird idea. The weird idea right now is it says here that it's using a shape called square. And square says that each of these characters are in their own little box. They're in their own little square and needs to move over. So if I adjust the opacity of these, and this is a weird idea, if I said let's adjust the opacity of these down to 0, again, now modified, they have 0 opacity. But as I change the range selector, they all come up. So this is kind of like you can do like a type on kind of idea. If you do this quick enough, you can do like a text type on effect where this would bring all these letters up. And we're going to do this slower just so you can see how this looks. How this looks is when it brings these letters on, it brings 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 13. And it does each of these letters individually. And so it does them one at a time. But we can play with this. Instead of doing this based on a square shape, we can do this based on a ramp up shape. And a ramp up shape would now, when I have this here, sorry, let me do this by percentage. When I have this from 0 to 100%, you'll see that it ramps and it kind of overlaps across the letters. So it's going to overlap across the letters. Now, unfortunately, since this is 0 to 100%, it's this one's fully there, this one's fully there. So this is a kind of a ramp that's increasing how this is going, as opposed to each letter is their own self-contained unit. It does this as a ramp, which is weird. I understand it's weird, but we can play with this. We can fix this with offset. And so here in offset, we can move the offset back to negative 100 and animate the offset to go from negative 100 to positive 100. And then it comes on like there. And so now you can see this animation. And here, we'll even do this. We'll duplicate these. I'm going to duplicate these, and I want you to see the difference here. So this top one, we're going to move back, and instead of animating the offset, we'll leave the offset alone. So we'll leave the offset here. We're going to turn the offset. We're going to animate. We're going to do this based on square. And we're going to animate the start position to animate this one on. And I'm going to actually move this one up here like so. So this is going to be, hold on a second. Let's do this 100, 0, 100. We'll move this to 0. Thank you. So this is invisible. And then we're going to animate this on to come on like this. So it's going to be here to here, and it's going to be animate on like there. And so it's going to come on at the same time. We'll actually put these keyframes at the same position, roughly, and so they come on like there. But watch how the one animates on and how the other one animates on. You'll see the difference in how these move. So this one, the top one, animates one letter at a time. This one kind of flows on. The bottom one with the ramp kind of ramps on. But the way to manipulate ramp, if you're doing a ramp up or ramp down, is to use the offset. Yeah, I feel like this is cooler. And again, we'll do this again. We'll just add in here, we're going to add in a blur of 100 pixel blur. So this can be super blurry. We'll do this one as well. We'll add 100 pixel blur as well. We'll let this ramp up and we'll see how this, yeah, see how each letter ramps up? In that square, it's kind of, I don't know, it's less exciting, less interesting. We can do that kind of ramp. That's kind of cooler. Yeah, I like that one much better. There's other modes that you can play with. There's ramp up, there's ramp down, there's triangle, which kind of does that action, so you can do a triangle. There's what's comparable to triangle, which is a rounded, which you can't really appreciate the difference in terms of that, but it moves kind of the same way. It's just how it kind of loops up and loops down in terms of there. And so there's some different ideas of how this moves. Smooth would do kind of a comparable thing. So you could do some of those actions there. And then you can control how it eases. There's some really controls there. And again, there's also that randomize order, which would totally... Some tricks you can do, some games you can play. Now, I will be honest, when I first explored text animators, I saw, the teacher who was showing me how to do them, did some really cool things and really cool ideas. And I really liked what they did, and it was really awesome. And then I went home and I tried it, and everything I did was wrong. I'm gonna clear this animator out. And everything I did was wrong, and everything I did didn't work. It was a mess. It was just horrible. And I wasn't happy about anything. And so, I went home and I tried stuff and I played and I nothing really worked out. But if you go here and you go to effects and presets. So if I go to window and I bring up my effects and presets, you will see my effects and presets window has a section here. This is effects and presets. And what the heck are presets? Well, you have a list of effects here, and you've had all your effects. You've had your stored effects and your generated effects and all your other cool effects, your stylized effects, etc. And there is some text effects that does some text and things. It generates a normal time code. There's a time code burn in, and you can have a countdown. But there's a thing here. This is animation presets, and there's what the heck are presets? Well, presets are somebody at Adobe or somebody else made something, and they made something cool, and they were playing with something, and they made something amazing. They said, "Hey, here." Have this. It's a gift to you. It's a gift that comes with Adobe. And so say, for example, we said, hey, we don't want this New York City background. We want a cool background. And we're going to go to Command Y. And we're going to say, let's just make a solid. We'll make a gray solid here. And we'll take this gray solid here. We'll make this comp size. And we're going to make this huge background here. We're going to put this in the background. And now I want a cool background. Well, under presets, for example, there's a background. Well, let's take a look. What can I do with background? Well, there's one here called... I don't know, cinders. And we go to cinders and we double click on the gray solid and we double click this thing and it adds in this effect. Oh, look at that. Oh, that's circuit. Sorry, I clicked on the wrong one, circuit. And circuit was made here with Fractal Noise and the Find Edges control and tritone. And now it does that. Kind of looks like the Matrix there. Amazing. Looks great. Let's undo and let's go back to cinders. I want to try cinders. So we're going to go back to the beginning here and just say cinders. Oh, it's like a burning, yeah, it looks like burning ash there, like there. And so that was done with the Fractal Noise 2, a tritone, and a glow. Awesome, amazing. I'm gonna undo that. Let's take a look, and let's look at, I don't know, indigestion. Sounds gross. Indigestion was made with Fractal Noise and tritone. Looks like that. Weird. And this is a preset. Somebody just made this. They just said, hey, this looks cool. I'm going to make this. It looks cool. Awesome. Like there. And so you can just explore different presets for all kinds of different effects. We can look at this one here called curtains. And if we look at curtains, we go, oh, look, it makes like a weird curtains. It used Fractal Noise and tritone to make this weird looking curtains, which I think is great. I love this. This looks fantastic. The problem is I don't like that these curtains are pink. They're like a weird, what is that, mauve or something? Or I don't know. I don't like the color at all. But unfortunately, the way this was designed, there's nothing I can do. I'm completely useless at changing color here because I don't know how this was made and I don't have any ideas of how this was made. It's beyond me. It's confusing. Oh, wait. Hold on. Maybe because there's this tritone effect over here. And with the tritone, it says highlights, midtones, and shadow. And there's colors here. Wait. Do you think maybe if I went here and I clicked on this and I changed this to a shade of blue, and then I changed this to a shade of blue, and then I changed this to another shade of blue, I can make blue. Oh, look at that. I made blue curtains. Amazing. Look at that. I can figure this out. I'm not smart enough to make this effect. I wouldn't know how they made this effect. I don't know what they did. I can't figure all this out, but I can make this happen. My problem being is that the curtains only animate for about 4 or 5 seconds, and then they just stop. And I wanted to animate longer. And now if only there were a way I could figure out how they animated. How possibly did this curtains animate these flowy curtains to go from 0 to 5 seconds? If only there was a shortcut key that would teach me what was happening with, I don't know, maybe something like keyframes? Oh, of course, the U key. The U key, what Adobe refers to as the Uber key, what I will call the used key. Yeah, it'll show me here. Oh, look, there's the keyframe. So the evolution is what's being animated. So now I know how they made this. I mean, I don't know everything they did here with the contrast and the brightness and the highlights and the midtones, whatever, but I can figure out, okay, this is controlling the color. I can at least figure that out. And so go to 10 seconds and say, let's say I'll move this over here longer. And instead of doing it in 1 rotation, since I changed this from 5 seconds to 10 seconds, I'll change it to 2 rotations. And now it's going to do this for 10 seconds here. And now I have these curtains doing this like this and changing this inside of here and doing all this cool animation. Great, amazing. And so one of the nice things about presets is that it's a really nice way to learn how to do stuff. So you can explore how to do different things. And you can kind of figure some stuff out from people who are probably smarter than you or I, who figured out how to do stuff. So for example, I noticed there was an effect here called green crystals. And right, I had an effect here called green crystals. And I saw this one day, and it makes this cool looking kind of effect that plays back really slow and takes a long time to render, and it's really hard. It's really a challenging effect, but it looks really cool. And again, how would I change the color of this? Let's see. Oh, look, there's a tritone effect. If I change this to purple, I can make purple crystals probably. Oh, look at that, purple crystals. And so I like this effect, and this is a cool look effect, and I like this whole background here. It's a cool thing. I might get rid of the fast blur because I feel like it's doing too much here. No, I thought that might be what's slowing us down, but really it's having some problems. Anyway, but this is the effect, and this is the effect, and this is how it works, and cool. I like it. I like what it does. Awesome. What I really like is I like this forward, fade. It's kind of like this fade. And so one day, for example, I was trying to do, and I'll show you an idea. I'm just going to turn this off for a second. We're going to make another solid. And I had Fractal Noise, and I had Fractal Noise. And I think I had Fractal Noise, and I had this like highly contrasted transform really small down to like 3%, and I had this brought down like stars. And so this was stars, super contrast, and I had just outer space stars right there. But I wanted to have that kind of blurry star kind of drifting towards you, and I couldn't figure out how to make that kind of space warp speed kind of star like lines drifting past you, that kind of volumetric light that kind of shines towards you, and how to really make that work. And I was trying to figure out how to make it work, but I looked at the green crystals and I was like, oh, well, the green crystals is doing that kind of effect where it's kind of zooming towards you. And I couldn't figure out what was going on. I played with glow, maybe took some glow effect, stylized glow, and had some of these crystals, a little bit brighter glow intensity, had some some of that going on, and really tried to play that up and play with the threshold of what it was doing, where it was and the radius or whatever I was trying to do there, and trying to make some glow there. And it really wasn't doing what I wanted to do. But then I looked at the green crystals and I was like, hey, let me see if I can use this to diagnose. And what I realized was here with the radial blur, there's a control in radial blur called type zoom. And here's how I figured that out. If you didn't know this, if you hit U, you can see what's being animated. So hitting U says, okay, the rotation, the scale, and the evolution are being animated. But if you hit U twice, UU, or W, but not W, I mean like UU, you see not everything that was animated. So hitting U once will show you everything that's animated, right? U once shows you everything animated. UU shows you everything that was touched, everything that the creator changed to this effect. So every little detail they touched inside of here is there. And then I noticed that one of the things was the type was changed from whatever it was to zoom. So if I go in here and I say, let's go to this gray solid here, with my stars here, and I go here and I say, let's look up that radial blur. and do Radial Blur here, and I apply the Radial Blur, it makes it look spinny, which is not at all what I want. I don't want spinny things. But if I go here and change this from spin to zoom, I get, oh, this is the effect I'm looking for. And I can actually move where the center of this spins from. So I can move what direction this kind of spins from, and I can change the detail to high or whatever it may be, and I can get some really intense amount of, you know, heavy duty streak lightning here. Maybe not that much, maybe like 35. And I can get this kind of thing. And I could maybe even duplicate this, maybe just duplicate this. Oops, sorry. Command D, duplicate this, and then take this first one, let's take the bottom one and change it to not have the radial blur. So it's just the regular stars. And then say the top one will go here to maybe like a add mode, so maybe a screen mode, and we'll screen this on top there. So we get, oh yeah, now we get the whole effect here. I really like this effect, and that's kind of what it's going for, this kind of streaky looking stars here. We may adjust opacity to get more or less streaky stars there, kind of just, you know, something like there, whatever it may be. Then maybe go for another blending mode, something else that does something else that's cooler. I don't know, try something. I don't think it's gonna work much with black and white, but that's weird. Anyway, some ideas, some tricks we could do, and some things you can play with. Now, I said all that to say that, well, for one, just as a detail, you can actually save your own presets. So you can create your own presets. So if you made something cool, well, let's go back. Let's say, for example, I took those stars, and I have this stars going on here. We'll change this back to screen mode, and I have this here. And I'm just going to get rid of Happy Birthday. We'll just get, we'll get rid of Happy Birthday for now. We'll get rid of this as well, and we have these two layers here. I can take these two layers here, or I can take just, well, maybe we'll just take this one layer. And I can say, let's just take this stars effect here that I really like, and we'll look at how the stars effect works, and the glow, and the radial blur, and all this other stuff. Maybe we'll, you know, play with this a little bit, change the amount, or whatever it may be. I can click on all these effects. So I'm gonna hold on Shift and click on all these effects. And then if I go next to effects and presets to the little pull down here, the little 3-button pull down, if I go to 3-button pull down, I can go to save animation preset. And it saves in a folder of my own called user presets. And I'll call this star zoom or something. And now I have this star zoom here like so. So now instead of presets, if I ever type in star, I can see in my presets here, user presets, I have star zoom. So anytime I want that effect, I can use that effect and I can make my own preset. So if there's something you use quite often, feel free to save it as a preset. Feel free to have your own preset that you can use anytime you want for whatever you're doing. But clearly, that's not what we're doing here today. We are talking about text. So let's go back to square one. We'll bring in New York City Arial here. And we will start talking about manipulating text and what we can do with text. So let's say we'll go back again here to Happy Birthday. And we'll take Happy Birthday here. And we'll go in here and we'll say, let's go to effects and presets and let's get rid of that. And let's look at animation presets. And there's a thing here in presets that says text-based presets. Well, what are text-based presets? Well, let's take a look. I'm actually going to drag this over here and put this right here so we can really see this. So in presets in text, we have, let's see, we have 3D text, animate in, animate out, blurs, curves and spins, expressions, fill and stroke, graphical, light and optical, mechanical, miscellaneous. We have all these different categories of presets. So let's try something really simple. Let's go here. Let's go to animate in and let's see. What are my options here? We're just going to open this up a little bit more. We have Espresso Eye Chart. So let's click on Happy Birthday and go to Espresso Eye Chart. We'll double click it, and now it does this. Oh, cool. Let's do that again. I'm at the beginning here. Let's take a look. Yeah, that's cool. I don't like it. Let me undo. Command Z, undo. Cool. And we're going here to spin in by character. Let's do spin in by character, and now it's going to go here. It's going to go spin in by character. Okay, so it spins in, but it doesn't spin in off screen, and I wanted to spin in off screen. Well, let's take a look. Let's see what they manipulated. Okay, so the position was changed. And I'm thinking this position, the position was moved to 295. If I move this down further, oh, look at that. And I don't have to do anything. I just did the one thing. I just changed one value. They did everything else to make, or whomever, you know, the secret man behind the curtain there, the Illuminati, did everything to make everything work here like so. I just changed a little bit. Let's do let's see, Espresso Eye Chart, maybe? No, we did that already. Let's try something crazy. Let's go to lights and opticals, and we can do sonar ping. Try sonar ping, see what sonar ping does. Oh, that's kind of cool. Oh, that's weird. Look at that. Well, sonar ping. Again, if I wanted to go faster, I may look at, okay, so there's an expression on here which makes it go faster. But again, some different things we can look at. Let's go look at, let's see. I like when you go to the 3D category under the 3D text. There's 3D text. What's the one that I saw that I really liked? 3D random spike tumble. 3D random spike tumble. I click on this and it does this. Oh, cool. Look at that. That's really cool. The problem is that when it spikes in, when it comes in like there, it has a yellow as the background. And I think the yellow is kind of, I don't know, not really my favorite. I don't really love the yellow. It's not really something I'm going to go for in terms of, yeah, I don't know. Don't love it. Not my thing. Not really big on it. So is there something else I can do to make this cooler? Well, let's take a look. Let's go to the animator and see. Let's see. Scale, rotation, opacity, fill color. Well, that's yellow. Let's see. Let's hit UU. Oh, look, fill color was changed. So you mean if I go to fill color and change this to pink, magenta, will this come in? Oh, look at that. That's a much cooler color. And again, the animation, I can speed up the animation or I can slow down the animation based on the keyframes. I could, could I make this myself? Probably not. Could I diagnose this and see what the other person did and change it a little bit? Probably. I could probably change it up a little bit. And this is how I learned about things about effects. And so this is how I learned about what effects can do. And particularly, like I said, when I first jumped onto After Effects, after being shown how to do text animators, I was very confused and it didn't make a lot of sense to me. But then I said, let me just use a preset. And at first I used a preset and, it's kind of plagiarism, I guess. But, Adobe After Effects is giving them to you. So who cares? It's there. And I still see television commercials and videos where I see people use presets all the time. But okay, so now I go and I say, good, I stole this preset. Great. But then I go, hey, you know what? I'm gonna take this preset, I'm gonna tweak it. Instead of being purple, I'll make this green or something. And now it's different. It's, it's not plagiarism if you change a couple words, right? And so now I make my own thing and now I have it, cool, I have something else made. Or maybe I go in here and I say, yeah, I like what this is doing. Let's see, if I added in another something, a skew, I could add in a skew and skew this. Would it do the same thing with the skew? Would it come in and be skewed when it came in? A little bit. I can do more and have, skew, and skew this more, and then have this. Oh yeah, that's even cooler. Sorry. And so I have this coming in with a skew. Again, so you can grab something and tweak it and make it your own thing. And you could actually save this as a new preset, my variation of this same random spike tumble. But if you see effects, or if you see text effects, explore through all of these. You can have all these effects. Again, I'll get rid of this animator here and we'll go back to the beginning here. So this text is not doing anything right now, which is fine. Fantastic. And we'll go here. We're going to reset this grouping here just to make sure. Excellent. And so here, we can go here, this text animator, we can go to something else. We'll go to organics. Let's see, organics, and we'll go to, insect wipe. Oh, weird. It's a weird idea. Again, keyframes, we could probably see what's happening here. Look at those keyframes, crazy keyframes. Yeah, a bunch of keyframes in here in position, and a bunch of different values here. Amazing. And so you can learn stuff. There's a nice way to learn stuff. And I got much better at doing text animators by just watching what somebody else did and seeing how they worked and seeing what they came up with as an idea. Double helix. And this is where I learned where stuff like ramp and randomize order, this is where I learned where that was because I learned how they are. So when you start off, feel free to play with a preset. Play with a preset, use a preset. No one will think less of you. But as you go on, come up with your own, invent your own stuff or, change a preset, diagnose it, change it, play with it, come up with something better. This is text animators. It's a weird thing to wrap your brain around. To make them work, I remember I had a really challenging time making my brain work around how text animators work. Because you're not animating position. You're not saying, hey, I'm going to take position, I'm going to turn the stopwatch on and move position like so. You're changing position. and you're saying, hey, I'm going to change position here to be somewhere off screen, and that's just a change. That's just saying, hey, I'm going to move this up here off screen like so. What I'm animating is the range. What's being affected by the thing that was modified. So I like the werewolf example to animate this in or animate this out. That works for me. All right, we'll pick up some new stuff later on. Maybe we'll get into some other craziness in future lessons. Otherwise, play with some text. Text, motion graphics is an important part of working inside of After Effects, and working with text is going to be universally important. All right, till next time.